Hello, welcome to today's show. I'm Jacqueline Stockwell, CEO and founder at Leadership Through Data. I inspire and motivate information leaders across the world.
Hello and welcome to today's show. I am talking with someone who knows how to bring people together to solve big problems. Now, Tania McInnes is a leader and a strategic thinker with over 25 years experience in local government and community work. She is a connector who is known for leading with honesty and building strong relationships. Now, Tania takes complex, messy situations and makes them clear and human connected. She combines big ideas with practical steps to get real results and is always focusing on trust and values to help communities stay strong. Her goal is to create a lasting impact for people and the land they share in New Zealand. She wants to help others navigate change and find new ways to grow by keeping leadership focused on the people it serves. Now, Tania, it's great to have you on the show. So I met you in person this week because I'm currently in New Zealand. And we had a real connection. We were just talking before the show about how you connect so well with people.
Kia ora. Kia ora, Jackie. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you. Yes, I think, the importance of our humanness, actually, especially when, so much is happening online, and the importance of, connecting and, stepping into the vibe, actually, how that energy that we all have and bring. You know that because you bring such an incredible energy to your mahi or your work. So, really important, because moving forward, we're going to be more online and we need to make sure, because there's a lot of loneliness. Yeah,
100%. And I really like the blog, and I put that in the show notes that you've written. And one of the key things that draws out there is about the human connection and the wisdom being so important. And I think a lot of people now around AI, it's very much, are they going to take over my job? And in some aspects it has, but what's really important, and certainly for the listeners to the show for information, is actually that human connection. Technology expands so rapidly and so quickly, but actually they still need us people to connect, which I love.
totally.
One of the key things that I wanted to draw out of that blog was a real sort of connection about the land in New Zealand. So Papatūnuku, I've been practicing that, which means the motherland. And I love the fact that the New Zealand culture is very much around the natural elements of the land and really nurturing and that cultural aspect of it. And it's very much about bringing in tomorrow, but not forgetting about yesterday, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's always...
totally. Yeah.
So you talk a lot about creating clarity in complexities. So when you walk into a project where there is a lot of messy information and conflicting opinions, I can't imagine anybody else not have walked into one of those situations. What is the first step to help everyone see a clear path forward?
So I think, trust. So, when I'm working with communities, the first thing is when I go into, so I'm not talking about back of house, but if I'm actually within the community, is building that trust. So we do check-ins. It's about, without taking up the whole time, but it's about checking in with where people are at. And exercises, so what I find about community strategy work and community is that there's a hell of a lot of passion, not always the process or the skill base. So sometimes you've got to spend a little bit of time of listening and allowing the, to come out, and then you're in a position to move forward. So, it's about trust, and you're going to hear me talk about why heaps. We talk about the what a lot and getting and diving in, but actually always coming back to the reason we're here. What is it that we want to achieve? And, trying to talk that through and bring people that they own it. So I'm not standing at the front going, blah, 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 that they have a sense of ownership around that.
100%. And it's about them being heard and them being valued, really feeling that they're drawn part of that work, isn't it? Because it's like you're taking them on the journey and the vision with them rather than saying, this is what you need to do. And I think that's a really key thing with leadership. So let's talk about trust and connection then. So in a world where people are often skeptical of leadership, how do you communicate difficult changes while keeping the community's trust?
Good question. So for me personally, I need to be in the right headspace. So it's what I bring. So I guess I would talk about my vibe, being calm, being safe, being really genuine and interested in what they have to say, and transparency. I'm not, I don't know, are we allowed to swear on here? I'm not bullshit. So
You can
if
swear
I
on it,
turn,
it's fine.
I turn up, I come genuinely to the environment, and I'm an ex-politician, so I totally get. It was interesting. I did a project called Focus Pie here, which ended up winning a New Zealand award for community development, and then I became a local government politician. And man, it was, I could really notice I'd gone from being high trust, doing cool stuff, to suddenly, yeah. So I totally get that. I think that the other thing's really important in any engagement is we're not doing it for tokenism. Local government, sometimes it's tick boxing. So when you go in and you engage people, whether in business or community, is that you're genuinely there and you're really clear on how they can influence and the areas that they can't as well. So that's important.
Yeah, agreed. And I think that connection and trust and authority as well when it comes to leadership is a really key thing. And we were talking yesterday on one of the Leadership Through Data Empower workshops around information leaders actually building their own authority. So how they stand, how they present themselves in a room, how they introduce themselves, because, people make assumptions so quickly about who you are within the first 30 seconds. So if you have a good, and it's called pitching, within that space, people think, oh, wow, and that can really change the dynamics of a room as well.
Yeah.
So let's talk about... Go on. No, go on.
I was just saying, I also live in a region where we're quite small. People tend to know each other. Protecting your integrity and all the work that you do is also really important. So even if you're not known, when you rock up to, talk about whatever you're there to talk about, is that you carry your whole self with you. Yeah.
I love whole selves. And I think I'm a strong believer of your authenticity, because I think so many people can look at somebody and try and idolize them and make themselves that kind of person. And actually it's around thinking, well, they're great. I love them. What can I take from them and turn it in to make it my own? And
Love
I think
that.
that's a real key thing that we really need to strive going forward. So let's talk about business, and I'm going to have a go at some more Māori language as we go through. If you've seen previous podcasts, I'm neurodivergent, so sometimes I don't get the words right. So we can have a good outtake for this one. So you emphasise a deep connection to the Wehenu land, the land?
Whenua.
Whenua. What is that? WH. It gets me. I'm staying in Whangarei right now, and it looks like Whangarei. So
Whenua. Yeah, the land. Yeah.
Which is the land. Kaiti Ati Kanga,
Close.
which means guardianship or stewardship. So change the way an entrepreneur should look at their own business and the people they serve.
Alrighty. I really love this question, and I think you touched on it earlier. Living in Aotearoa in New Zealand, there's a real sense of connection with the whenua, with the land. I think what's really important is that, particularly in a Western society, we've come to a point that we see the whenua, the land, papatuanoku, as a resource. That's something, and we plunder it and do all sorts of things. And it's coming back to that innate understanding that actually we are of the land, and and then when we pass, we go back to the land. And if we can look at our beautiful earth as a living organism rather than dirt, and it changes the way that we think and do. And also thinking about the legacy we're leaving for our mokos or our grandchildren is what that looks like. And from a business point of view, I think it's really important moving forward is how we think about our interactions with, there's lots of talk around, simple things with recycling and how we use water and that, but, it's thinking about, it's like honouring Jackie. It's like, it's not that we shouldn't use the land, not at all. It's what keeps us alive, but do it in a way that honours the people and the whenua, the land that we're on. So it just changes rather than saying, oh, there's something else that we can, it's honouring it.
And I think it's so powerful because actually we live
Yeah.
on the land, and the way you've described it, I think is so important for us to have the respect for the land. And I do think it's, what's the word? It assumed it would just always be there. And you look
Yeah.
at climate change now and how much the weather's changing. But I think the way the New Zealand culture and the principles that you guys have around Papatūnuku is absolutely inspiring. And I think it's definitely something that is a key value. And you can take that into leadership as well. So it's the
Absolutely.
respect for the land, but also the people that work in that land, and just holding that close and that forming part of you. So I love that.
Yeah.
So you're also known for blending big picture vision with practical delivery. So what is your secret for making sure a great idea actually turns into a real measurable result?
So creating buy-in. So, this is us, the team. So coming back to that why, creating the buy-in so everyone sees themselves in the project, so they're invested. And walking the talk, of course. You can't, get up there and you've got to practice it. The older I get, the more I see that words are awesome, but actually it's what we do that often has the biggest impact in how we go about doing what we do. I'm really aware that lots of people like to do. When we did Focus Pie here, and I'm talking about strategy, and that was part of my learning, is that, I'm like, we need to get the why first before we get into doing the do. Well, actually, you need to do sometimes both at the same time, because sometimes the why will come through the practice of learning, engaging and having that time with your colleagues to learn and understand. Yeah. So, yeah. Creating buy-in, making sure, and just being really open. I think it's about, you said it is because I might do it this way. Actually, if we're clear on where we want to go, allowing people to get there in their own way, as long as we're, all heading in the same direction and not on different
100%.
walker going in different directions.
We have a lot of the information leaders that listen to the podcast that have struggles to get buy-in.
Yeah.
What is like a top tip that they could do to start to get buy-in?
I think it's what's the value, and I get data, because what's the value, and then bringing it in practically is to using examples of if we have this data or this information, actually how does it add value, or to what it is that we do. That raising funding or getting people on board, it's just making it really practical.
Yeah, 100%. And then there's the people element in it, which I would want to put in that aspect is actually if an information leader is wanting to get buy-in and they turn up and say, oh, we need to do it like this and like this. There's no confidence, there's no trust in terms of their delivery. But if they come up and said, right, this is how we need to play it, this is the return of investment, this is how much money it's going to save you, and kind of be really, really authentic and, gain that trust and credibility from the organisation, I think that also helps. So it's kind of this, what we've been talking about, it's a blend of people and the land, and also through the leadership. So it's all kind of one thing. So you believe that leadership is most powerful when it's inclusive and deeply connected to people. How do you make sure that the quiet voices in a room are heard when you are developing a new strategy?
So once again, how you bring yourself, but it's your tools and techniques. So often when I'm doing, I've done it in business and community, is I have this cool little tool. It's called Happy, Mad, Sad. And so we have little stickies, we put them on the wall, and when people arrive, so it's, it's confidential. And so what happens is they get to write what they love about, what, makes them a little bit sad, and if anything makes them angry. And then, it's a really safe way of getting everyone to get involved and put their words up there without feeling that they have to stand up and share that. And the other thing, it's also very useful for the opposite people that like to talk a lot, that you channel that
Like me.
energy into there as well. Yeah. I think sometimes, it depends on the project, but you need to spend that time one-to-ones. I often find the quiet ones are, because they're observing. And so being able to tap in that sometimes towards the end, asking them their observations, or because there's often that real depth to just listening and observing. So it's just being gentle, eye contact again, and being respectful of not putting people on the spot. But I think using tools and techniques that make it safe and, not personalised is a really good tool.
Yeah, I love
And
that.
you get
happy,
heaps of
mad,
data out of
sad.
that. When you see, we did one in Kiri, I think we had 300 people, and the wall was full of stickies. And you start seeing all the themes coming through. People can also see their voice in it. So that's important too, when you're sharing, is that they can see that they've been heard.
100%. I love that. Happy, mad, sad. But that's
Yeah.
also about finding out about the people that you work with, right?
Yeah.
So there's a really good book. I don't know if you've read it. It's called Surrounded by Idiots. I love the book. It's on Amazon, and it's around color profiling. So everybody has a certain color. So you'll have a dominant color. There's 4 colors in there. But it's around finding out about who you work with so you can communicate with them better the way they want to be communicated with. I think like what you're describing is a similar methodology, because you're trying to understand how people work, and then because of how people work, you can actually really support them in their mental health, in their work capacity, and I think that is a real thing around leadership. So I love that. Happy, mad, sad.
It's really simple and it's so effective. Like, I actually find it really powerful. And then, everyone gets to go and look at what's written. And unless you know people's handwriting, it's really, and that's really just from collecting information is a really useful tool.
Yeah, agree. In some of Leadership Through Data, when we used to do face-to-face, we still do face-to-face, but it's quite limited now. We used to give everybody a colour. Because obviously people like me, happy to talk, ask questions all the time, because I want to get the most out of it. And then the quieter voices. And it's a way of saying, like, Blues, it's your turn now. So it empowers the quieter speaking people to say, oh, it's my turn to speak now. And then red pipe down or something along those lines. But it's a really good kind of, I love colour, rainbow colour all the way.
Yeah, cool.
Anything colour picture. But it's really good. So you could, like, if you had 10 people in a room, 4 colours, 2 or 5 colours, 2 of each. And then it's a way of kind of making sure that everybody's got a voice.
I think also I just want to add, it's about creating safe spaces. So being really mindful where you're bringing people into, transparency again. So you're really clear, that no surprises. And when I talk about safe spaces, it's also, once again, the energy we bring to the room and who your facilitator is.
100%. And it's your energy, because you could be having a bad day and you really don't want to bring it into the room.
No.
Because it's just going to affect everybody else.
Yeah, totally.
It's your unconscious. I can't think of the word right now, but it's just about your presence and your energy when you're coming into a room. If you're having a bad day, leave it out the door.
Yep. Total.
I love that. Totally. So as a change leader, you help people navigate uncertainty. So change management is a huge thing in any organisation. When a project gets tough or hits an unexpected wall, how do you help a team stay resilient and keep them moving forward?
Humour. You got to have a laugh. Yeah, I think total transparency. So, that no surprises. I think as the leader, you need to show the vulnerability in that, is not pretending, and certainly no blame. It's talking about, where we're at and where we need to be. And it's definitely the no blame. It's that teamwork. So what we have, kōrero. So kōrero is having the conversation, talking, and just leading that through vulnerability, I guess, by acknowledging where you're moving to. And as you know, the really important thing, because the world is blinking rapidly changing, is that you've got to, once again, you come back to your why. Where is it that we're leading? What is the outcome we're looking for? And actually, is there a better way? So this has happened. What's the learning in there? Not that it's it's not that it's wrong, but we've learned something. So how do we move in a way that takes that learning to get us to where we need to be? So it's just having those really open
100%.
corridor. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And it's also like the vision is getting them to buy into the change vision.
Yes.
So when they
Yeah.
are unsettled times, it's actually this is where we need to end up.
Mm.
And there's a really nice analogy. You could use a ship analogy for that. That you're over troubled waters, but your destination's right over there, and we just kind of need to get over there. We might have to chuck out some stuff on the way. We might meet some pirates. All those types of things.
And that's exactly because it's like life in general. We do all our learning often in the more challenging times. I mean, joy is wonderful, but a lot of that learning, and you see that as a richness, not as a problem. It's like, we've just learned another way in how not to do it.
Yeah.
And just see, so it strengthens us, I think. And then, love the pirate. There's a few pirates around.
There's a few pirates around.
Yes.
So just on the pirate ship, let's talk last little bit around storytelling. So you list storytelling as a top skill. We talked about your blog right at the start of the show, and I'd love to share that on the show notes. But can you share a time when a well-told story achieved a goal that facts and figures alone couldn't reach?
So I'm still learning in this space. I've had some mixed results. There's a story I wrote, but I just want to touch on a really cool story. Have you heard the story about the fleas? I used to do this when I was coaching.
No,
so you can
me.
Google this. So the flea story is scientists put some fleas. So fleas can jump. I think it's like 20 times there. So he put some fleas in a jar and he put a glass ceiling on them. And over time, the fleas learnt to only jump as high as the glass ceiling. And what happened is they became conditioned that when they took the lid off, the fleas never realized their potential that they could jump. So I'm getting goosebumps. They never, Google this, but basically they never returned to the ability to jump higher. So we hear this term breaking glass ceilings, and that's a really practical example of how society, when we talk about authenticity and we put our masks on and all the things that we're doing to try and fit in and be part of whatever we think is normal, whereas actually it's our ability, it's smashing those ceilings so that we shine and, jump as high as we can. Yeah. So it's I love that story. I use it a lot when I was coaching. Another more business orientated story is doing some work for the Northland Economic Wellbeing Strategy. And I wrote a little story because when we're talking 100 years time, it's really freaking hard to get your head around it. And with technology at the moment, 5 years is a little bit freaky. So, using storytelling as an opportunity to paint a picture. This particular story, Marama's, she's turning 110, and a humanoid comes from the other side of the world because she won't upload her data to talk with her. And within the story, you can share, the metrics that they've through clear decision-making, brave decision-making, but they're also still speaking te reo, which is, the native. So without having to say that we're still speaking Māori in 100 years, you just weave that into the story. So storytelling is a really beautiful way to connect with heart, I think, and that imagination. And when you're trying to, set a picture for what the future looks like, it's much easier because once again, it's a form of buy-in. People feel it. It's not just something they've heard. And so the storytelling can be really beautifully woven to help create a picture of possibility.
I think when you said about the fleas and about that story, it's just, I was paused with you. I was listening all the way. But it is like, I'm very much a huge advocate of storytelling. It really connects to that emotional aspect of the people. And it makes it relatable and understandable. Certainly when you're talking about information and data, it's like, in the virtual space, you can't physically see it, whereas previously records libraries, you could physically see them. And now we've got to find a different way of getting people to what we're trying to achieve.
And it comes back to your earlier question, is that, how do we get people excited about stuff that sometimes is not seen? Is, by weaving stories that people see themselves in, helps, create the why. And particularly, I think, when they're focused on the next generation. that's a really beautiful way of, bringing, but not saying so much so the imagination captures it.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I've got a storytelling framework in my book, so you're going to be the proud
Choice.
owner of a book.
Yay.
So there's a five-stage storytelling that help you map out your stories. You get on with it. So last question for me. You mentioned that leadership should be authentic. You're an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. The listeners, I would call them as intrapreneurs, which is what I'm trying to create, which means they're exactly the same as an entrepreneur, but they just don't take the financial risk.
Right.
And they work within organizations. So how do you find the balance between being honest and vulnerable in stories while still maintaining professional authority and your authenticity?
Love this question. It's interesting word, vulnerability, isn't it? Because it can sometimes suggest a fear. I've done lots of internal work, so I've found that I've now got to a point, and being a bit older, I think helps, where, you can start taking those masks off. And so when you're coming from a really authentic space, which for me is my heart space, still head's well engaged, but it's balanced, is that actually it feels normal. And you feel like you're in flow. Because of my political background, I spent a lot of time in what I'll call old school ways of doing. And there are times, it has been hard where, you can label yourself as feeling like a flake or woo-woo or whatever. But I'm now at a point because I trust, I've practiced, and although I'm still learning, I'm trusting myself. I'm trusting my innate wisdom, which we all carry. We just haven't always been taught how to tap into it. So from an authentic point of view, it's like a superpower, actually. It's like, wow, I love this person and all my highs and lows and ups and downs is that, she's strong and she's resilient. And I come from a place that I genuinely care. It's like, I hope that everything I do is helpful to someone else. So yeah, from an authentic, it is hard, but actually I just want to say be encouraged, because the world is moving at such a rapid pace that we actually need the real us to stand up and put our hand up and just say, man, we need it, because 70% of people find purpose and mahi in their work. And that's changing. And so, it concerns me about some of these people. Where will their purpose come from if it's not wrapped around what they do in their day? And the importance of coming back to what makes us happy and what brings us joy and what makes us excited. That is our humanness, and how we bring that into how we connect on a daily basis.
My God, that was amazing. 100%. I'm all there with you. That was sensational to end the show today. So thank you so much for your time. It's been sensational. And how can listeners reach out to you if they want to ask you more questions?
My website, taniamckinnes.kiwi.nz. Easy to track me down. Facebook, WhatsApp, whatever and love to hear. Jackie, thank you. I just want to say, and you're amazing. I just love your fire. Yeah. Keep doing it.
Oh, thank you so much. I just have to ask before we end the show, what does it say behind you? Because you've got when the power of love overcomes the power.
The love of power. That is a Jimi Hendrix. When the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace.
Ah, I love it.
Goosebumps
I love
again.
it. There we go. End of show.
Thanks.
Cheers.
See ya.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Journals of the Information Entrepreneur with me, Jacqueline Stockwell. I hope you found this episode inspiring and helpful and have some takeaway tips that can be useful to you. If you liked this episode, please like, review and share it with your friends. Your support helps us reach more information leaders to stay inspired and listen to great content. Want to test out your strengths and weaknesses and measure it against our Empower framework? Please complete the scorecard. It's a great way to improve and evaluate your skills. You can find the scorecard at the end of the description of this podcast. Stay tuned for a new podcast every Thursday, And remember to be bold, be brave, and be beautiful.